consumer behavior. Let's continue with the motivation. A motive is a need that is sufficiently pressing to direct the person to seek satisfaction. Motivation research refers to qualitative research designed to probe consumers' hidden subconscious motivations. And in order to facilitate this research, we have the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's what I talked to you about it in the last video. You have self-actualization needs, you have self-development and realization, you have esteem needs, self-esteem, recognition, status, social needs, which is sense of belonging, love, safety needs, security, protection, physiological needs, hunger and thirst. So once you have all of these needs met, these needs, when you feel that they have been met, you are at your peak of performance. You want to help others. You have altruistic behaviors. So you need to find out, where does your consumer reside in this pyramid? Your target consumer, what part of this pyramid does your target consumer correspond to? Perception is a process by which people select, organize, and interpret information to form a meaningful picture of the world from three perceptual processes: selective attention, selective distortion, selective retention. So it's like, how somebody perceives something is known as perception. How they see, how they pay attention, how they compare it with what they know, how they remember it forever. Selective attention is the tendency of people to screen out of most of the information to which they are exposed. Selective distortion is the tendency for people to interpret information in a way that will support what they already believe in. Selective retention is the tendency to remember good points made about a brand they favor and forget good points about competing brands. So you need to think about this consumer psychology when you are creating a product. Remember, this is how human beings, they perceive things. This is how they, select and remember. And this is how they make a decision that which ones to remember, which ones to forget about. So you need to understand this human behavior and you need to cater them accordingly. Learning is, physiological factors. Other physiological factors that we're going to discuss now is the learning. Learning is the change in an individual's behavior arising from experience and occurs through interplay of drives, stimuli, cues, responses, reinforcement. So learning is something that changes human behavior, and it comes from several drives, like your motivations. If you're motivated to learn something, you definitely want to learn about it. Stimuli, like how strong was the stimulus, which means that, how much was it able to attract and retain your attention. That's what it means when you say stimuli. Was it able to, help you forget everything else and then just focus on that thing? So, and then cues, it's like a series of pattern of the same thing happening again and again. You begin to wonder that whether the cues about that thing that you're receiving, does that really deserve your attention? And then you have responses and reinforcement, and that's how learning overall takes place. Beliefs and attitudes are other physiological factors that help you in learning. Belief is a descriptive thought that a person has about something based on knowledge, opinion, and faith. You may have people of different faiths and they might be trying to, live together. You have people of different knowledge living together. You have people of different opinions living together. But collectively, you cannot see the whole picture. You have to individually try to see what your, target consumer, the consumer that represents your target, what do they believe in, what kind of knowledge they have, what kind of opinions they hold on many issues, political issues, gender issues, education, laws, marriage issues, So many issues. Okay, you need to find out the opinions of these people. You need to find out what kind of faith they follow. Are they conservative? Are they liberal? Are they atheists? You need to find out knowledge, like how educated they are, because the more educated a person is, you need less time to explain them how the product works. And not necessarily less time, but you can use words to explain them. But if you have somebody who is not very educated, you would need a lot of illustrations, you would need a lot of diagrams. So knowing beforehand about your consumer helps you design your marketing plans better. Beliefs and attitudes. Attitudes describe a person's relatively consistent evaluations, feelings, and tendencies towards an object or area. So what kind of attitudes that a person has? Okay, types of buying or decision behavior: complex buying behavior, dissonance, reducing buying behavior, habitual buying behavior, variety seeking buying behavior. So what kind of consumer do you have? Okay, does your consumer have a very complicated buying habit? For example, they will go for something very expensive and then they will go for something very cheap. So it doesn't make any sense. You cannot actually figure out what's going on in their head. Then you have dissonance, reducing buying behavior, which means that you're trying to find out whether they buy for pleasure, they buy for to complete a duty or a task. Depends, what kind of motive they have. Habitual buying behavior: they just buy out of habit. They don't really need things, but they like to buy things. So you need to think about these things as well. And then you have a variety seeking behavior, in which they try to buy a lot of different things. They could be cheap, expensive, branded, unbranded, generic. So what kind of consumer do you have? Types of buying decision behavior: you have complex buying behavior, variety seeking behavior in this box here. You have dissonance, reducing behavior, buying behavior, habitual buying behavior. Okay, so these are the 4 types of buying behaviors, and there are significant differences between brands. There are few differences between brands here: dissonance and reducing. Habitual buyers, very few differences. Complex buying, just like I said, they would buy something cheap, then they would buy something branded. It's very complicated how they think. And they have high involvement in the product. Here, variety seeking, low involvement in the product. Okay, buying behavior varies greatly for different types of products. For example, someone buying an expensive new PC might undertake a full information of gathering and brand evaluation process. At the other extreme, for low involvement products, consumers may simply select a familiar brand out of habit. For example, what brand of salt do you buy and why? And if something cheap comes along, a cheaper salt comes along, you'll be happy to switch. Okay, and if something says that it has more iodine than the current one, you would just be happy to switch the salt. So you're not very involved in the brand, but you're involved in your particular psychological state. So you need to understand how your consumers purchase. Okay, then you have the buyer decision process. This is a typical buyer decision process. First, you have a need recognition, in which the buyer recognizes that they have a need and they need to fulfill that need. Then you have information search, you have evaluation of alternatives, you have purchase decision, and then you have a post-purchase behavior. So the first thing that you have is the information search. For example, if you're looking for a camera, you realize that you need a nice camera. The camera on your iPhone or your Android device is not good enough. You need a very nice camera. That's need recognition. You then go ahead and look at different brands on the internet, or you might just go visit a few stores to look at some brands like Canon, Nikon, and other brands, Kodak, and many other brands available for camera. Then you evaluate the kind of capacities and capabilities each brand has. Then you try to narrow down the top 1, top 2, top 3, and then you make a purchase decision. You decide on one. Okay, you constantly compare, And then you have a post-purchase behavior in which you try to determine whether your purchase was a good idea in the first place, or whether you're still benefiting from the purchase, or would you recommend the product to others. So this is the general buyer decision process. Then you have the need recognition occurs when the buyer recognizes a problem or need triggered by internal stimuli and external stimuli. So you have an internal stimuli and then you have an external stimuli. So the need recognition varies by these different stimuli. Okay, then you have the buyer decision process for information search. Sources of information are personal, commercial, public, experiential. So personal sources are sources like family and friends. Commercial sources are advertising, internet. Public sources, mass media. For example, I told you, you could have an advertisement on a bus. Consumer organizations. Experiential sources are handling, examining, and using the product. For example, word of mouth. So this is how they get information from different stimuli. Then evaluation of alternatives, how the consumer processes information to arrive at a brand choices, how they come to the decision. Okay, depends on the individual consumer and specific buying situation. For example, if the camera really works out for my friend, I will definitely buy it for myself. So those are the things that makes a lot of difference. All right. And then you have the purchase decision. And in this purchase decision, you try to come up with the act by the consumer to buy the most preferred brand. The most preferred brand, that's what you try to come up with. And you try to watch what others are doing. You just don't do what you feel like doing. Okay? And the purchase decision can be affected by attitudes of others, unexpected situational factors. If someone's going to tell you that, hey, this camera was, really bad, I had a bad experience, you would definitely not buy it. Then you have this post-purchase decision, the satisfaction or dissatisfaction that the consumer feels about the purchase. Relationship between consumers' expectations, products' perceived performance. The larger the gap between expectation and performance, the greater the consumer's dissatisfaction. Okay, so the expectations and performance curve should be very short, the gap should be very small. What they're expecting from the product should deliver, which is why it's very important to try to find out what the consumer really wants. What are their preferences? What are their choices? Which is why you need to focus on the consumer survey. You need to focus on the questionnaire. You need to see their responses. You need to write questionnaires in different ways so that you can deduce the same kind of responses accurately and design a product that they ask for. That's the goal. Then you have cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort caused by a post-purchase conflict, which means that you're not very satisfied. You felt you could have gotten a better deal. You felt that you overspent, or you felt that the product was too cheap. You're not happy with the color, all of these things. Customer satisfaction is the exact opposite of cognitive dissonance. Customer satisfaction is the key to building profitable relationships with consumers, to keeping and growing consumers and reaping their customer life value. So this is what you need in your business marketing plan. This is your target, your goal. You need to go for customer satisfaction. You must be hearing a lot of products that say customer satisfaction guaranteed, because they keep the customer in their mind at all times. So remember, if you have a marketing plan, or if you have a product or a service that you want to sell, you need to make sure that it is something that your customer wants, not something that you want to sell. Okay, the buyer decision process for new products is new product and adoption process. A new product is a good service or idea that is perceived by some potential customers as new. And adoption process is the mental process an individual goes through from first learning about an innovation to find regular use. Adoption process, for example, you have a new app, you install the app, you see other people working on the app, and then you try to use the app so that you become it, and it becomes one of the top 5 apps that you touch daily. So that is the adoption process. And you need to understand this consumer psychology very well before you can go ahead with your marketing plan. So that's it for this chapter. I'm going to end it here, and we're going to go to chapter 6 next. Stay tuned.